right. Welcome to the Gentleman Badass podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we've got a fun guest. We've got Smitty. And honestly, Smitty, I don't know your real name. I've always just known you as Smitty. I don't know how many people actually know your real name. But Smitty's an entrepreneur, Marine, or I guess former Marine, but once a Marine, always Marine. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about all that stuff today. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, and don't feel bad. I've known people for a long time that don't know my real name.
Well, so yeah, let's just start with a little bit of your background. I don't know anything about it. So tell us kind of, maybe a little bit about growing up, and then what led you to join the Marines?
Well, I grew up in Florida. I joined the Marine Corps directly out of high school. I joined with a good buddy of mine on the buddy system, who I think you guys both might know. His name's Big Papa Schnocky. And when I joined with him, it was because him and I had started a kind of like a support club for our high school football team, like a fan club kind of thing, like a booster club. It was called the Naked Raiders. Schnocky and I used to streak our high school football games. And so I met him, instantly bonded over streaking. Him and I joined the Marine Corps, and they quickly separated us. I didn't see him again until we got out. When I got out, I moved to Orlando, and he was bouncing at an Irish bar down there, and he carded me walking in, and he recognized my name from the ID, and that was the first time we met. But the way the Marine Corps plays, and I didn't have a very eventful career. I joined in 92. From 92 to 96, and the war in Iraq, the first war in Iraq, had already ended. So when I got in, it was relatively peaceful. We went over there, but we kind of stayed on our boats. We were kind of part of the cleanup team and didn't have a very active role in it. But I did meet a lot of good friends. The guy who I opened up Big Brain with, I met while I was in the Marine Corps. And he had a little bit more eventful career, so I lived a little bit vicariously through him. He was part of the team that helped rescue Captain Scott O'Grady. Okay. So he got a big stack of ribbons for that.
That's Chris Blinson.
Right? And he's still my best friend.
Okay.
So talk to him all the time. He's in South Florida. It's kind of funny. He was originally from Omaha, and I was originally from Florida. But after we moved here and opened up Big Brain, he left to Florida. So he's in my home state, and I'm in his.
Okay.
It was an odd coincidence.
And he was on Ink Master, right?
Yeah, he not this season, but last. So I guess that was the 2018 season. He came in second, and he said it was a good experience.
Robbery.
Yeah, it was.
He was
robbery.
ripped off.
But I think he had high hopes of winning. But for the years before that, they kind of had made a habit out of putting the best guy in second place so they could get a little bit more mileage out of him, It was pretty clear he was the best tattooer. Oh, yeah. But once you win, there's no big incentive to come back. So they put you in second place and kind of dangle that carrot for the next 2 or 3 seasons, trying to get more more production out of you.
Yeah.
And it worked. He's been on there several times since then, and it's been great for his career. But I think in retrospect, he'd rather have won and had that money.
Although I think he's doing okay.
He's doing really well.
Yeah.
He's doing really well. He's successful in every way. And he's just such a competitive person. And obviously being my business partner and my best friend, such an influential person in my life. His family's influential in my life. And I've been thankful to call him for a friend for a very long time.
I got my first tattoo by Chris.
Really?
And, I didn't have anything to go on. And he did the gym knot on my shoulder. And I wanted white ink. And so he's like, yeah, I can do that. So he's doing it. And it's my first tattoo. I'm sitting there going, fuck, this hurts. Jesus Christ, this hurts. And I'd heard people say, oh, yeah, you feel it a little bit. But then I'd heard afterwards I got it done. People were like, so how was it? I was like, yeah, it looks cool, but Jesus Christ, it hurt. And people were like, yeah, Chris has a heavy hand. And I was like, oh, that's a real thing.
To this day, people still say that about him. But it's worth it, He is talented, obviously, but he can get stuff done in half the time as somebody else. And to me, that's valuable. I'd rather be in pain for an hour, a lot of pain for an hour, than a little bit of pain for 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So it's a fair trade to me, but next trick is getting it to heal. When you're going that fast, sometimes Chris's tattoos take a little while to heal.
So we actually met through the gym.
Okay.
These guys showed up at the gym. How did you guys get introduced to the gym, though?
That's a
Chris
good
and you?
question. I don't remember the very early beginnings. I guess it would have had to been through Bourbon Street or Victory J or
Maybe.
Chad
Or
Mason.
Schnocky.
Yeah, or Schnocky.
Yeah.
We were sponsoring it and training in Florida, so I guess it was kind of a easy transition. We kind of found a gym up here that would put up with us.
So Bourbon Street was this bar on 84th Street. Now this is before the days where MMA was regulated. And my business partner at the time, still one of my good buddies, Kevin Newman, was like, hey, how would you think about we take the ring down every Tuesday night, we set it up in Bourbon Street, and we do these MMA fights? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, I think we can make a lot of money. I was like, brother, you have at that. I want nothing to do with that. So he ended up working this deal. I think Chad Mason was involved as like the matchmaker. And some of the biggest names that went on to like the UFC, I think Jens Pulver fought there, Jeremy Horn, Houston, were all kind of got their start in this bar on Bourbon Street. And literally there was some matches that were, lined up ahead of time, but literally you could go down to the bar and just sign up to fight. Now I don't know, we're talking a long time ago before MMA was regulated. But Kevin would come back on Wednesday morning. I was like, dude, just have the ring set up on Wednesday morning. I don't care. This is your deal. You make what you want. But after a couple of weeks of this thing, I'm watching him counting cash in my office going, fuck, I think I screwed up here because he's making a boatload on this thing.
Yeah, those were crazy times.
It was nuts.
Everybody, that place was packed. It'd be an hour to get in.
Yeah.
And then they just take fighters out of the crowd. There was a small core of guys who trained and had some experience, and they'd get in there with anybody who wanted to get in there, whether it was a guy out of the crowd or a guy from another gym. The fight industry was really small at the time. There was a handful of good guys, and they were kind of the groundbreakers in the industry, like Jeremy Horn and some of these guys who have been in. To me, that's kind of the first phase of fighters, like Jensen and all those guys when they were training up at Prairie Life. Those guys were all part of it. I mean, I don't know what UFC Jensen fought in, but it was first 10 or something, and they were up there. So these guys were kind of like the pioneers of the industry, and here they are showing their faces at this bar event, and you really felt you were part of the community there, and that was my draw.
Funny story about all that. You may remember this, but so I had this legend of Muay Thai training at my gym for about a year, Kong Napa. And Kong didn't have a work permit, so he was working kind of under the table, and he would help set up the ring for those fights. So one Tuesday evening, I get a call at home from one of my other fighters going, Coach, you're not supposed to know this, but Kong is fighting tonight. And I was like, in an MMA fight? Like, no way. I go, he's like 6-time world champion. Like, no. So I called Kong and I was like, Kong, what are you doing? He's like, Coach, the man, he insulted my family. He insulted Thailand. I was like, I don't care. Like, no, you're not fighting. He's like, I need to teach him a lesson, Coach. And I was like, Kong, don't do this. And he's like, I'd be okay, Coach. I was like, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about this drunk dude who he basically made fun of him. So Kong said, do you want to fight? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll fight you. And I said, and nobody around tried to talk some sense into this guy going, hey, listen, this guy's kind of a legend in Muay Thai. So Kong went in there and like knocked the guy out with a head kick in like 30 seconds. And I was just like,
lucky he didn't kick his head off. That guy he's like YouTube material. I can see that dude kicking down telephone poles busting banana trees. He was the real deal, man.
He was 6-time like Lumpini champion, and but he fought at Bourbon Street too.
Wow.
Yeah, and against somebody who had no business being in the ring with him whatsoever. But Kong, actually Thai people are all very proud. So you insult their family, you insult their country, you're gonna get your head kicked in.
Yeah, God, what a surprise it had to have been to that dude, though.
Good times.
Crazy. So what was it that kind of led you to start a tattoo shop then? How did that idea pop in your head?
Well, we're going to go back to the Marine Corps for a second and back to that business partner, Chris. Him and I were both kind of the artist of our battalion. And anytime like the platoon sergeant or the lieutenant would need something drawn for a battalion run, or they'd want something painted on their wall, they would call Chris or I to come help them out with the design. And after working together a lot, people started coming to us asking for us to draw tattoos so they could take them out in town to get them done. And eventually that kind of got old, and we thought we should be cashing in on these drawings instead of letting them take them out in town and letting that guy make the money for all the drawing that we had done. So he bought a tattoo machine out of the back of a magazine, and him and I started our own business. And I can tell you what it was called. It was called Toe Jam and Butt Weasel. That was the first name of our first endeavor together. And I wasn't Toe Jam, so I got stuck with the shitty nickname, but we wanted something that was catchy like Bonnie and Clyde, and that was the best we could come up with.
Nice.
So it stuck for years and years, and we'd order out of that mail order catalog and tattoo all of our buddies in the Marine Corps, and we'd go on ship and we'd set up in the boiler room, or we'd set up in the bathroom at the barracks, and we kind of learned on the fly. And when we got out, we moved to Orlando and just knocked on enough doors where we finally had somebody let us in. And that's the guy who I kind of credit with making my career.
Okay. And then how did the name Big Brain come about, and about when did that actually start happening?
Well, we had already made the decision to leave our mentor. Him and I learned from the same guy at a place called Bad Dog in Orlando. And that was a rough place, man. He was part of a bike club, and it was a bad part of town, and the guys that we worked with all had their own personal problems, and it wasn't unusual to come in and have your money from the night before stolen, or your gear vandalized, and you have to reset it up. So it's just like this really rough and tumble place, and we were always kind of making fun of people and picking on people, and that eventually led to us stealing a line from Pulp Fiction. And remember when Samuel L. Jackson says, "Check out the big brain on Brad." He's talking about a cheeseburger or Royale with cheese, and that line kind of caught on. And anytime somebody would do something smart or stupid, we'd say, "Check out the big brain on Brad," or "Check out the big brain on Chris," or "Check out the big brain on Smitty." And people were doing stupid stuff enough there where we said it quite a bit. So that eventually led to us just holding up a sign that said it. And it being a tattoo shop, it eventually led to a drawing that said, "Check out the big brain," and then we would just insert the name. And it ended up catching on, and everybody made their own sign. And I guess, to speed the story up, we just used one of those signs as our first logo and named it Big Brain.
Okay.
And if I ever thought the store was going to be here 20 years later, I probably would have thought of a better name, but it's exceeded every expectation I've ever had. So Big Brain stuck, and I'm kind of thankful it has a unique name now.
Yeah. Well, it seems like full circle would be Samuel L. Jackson coming and getting tattooed at Big Brain. That'd be pretty. I don't know if he does tattoos or not, but
I don't know if he does either, but he's still one of my favorites.
It'd be pretty sweet.
I still love telling that story too.
Yeah, at least get a picture in front of the sign.
My kids are begging me. My oldest is 14 and my youngest is 9, and they hear me tell the story, and they're like, "We want to see the movie, Dad. We want to see the movie." They're right on the verge. Yeah, I think my oldest might be able to deal with like an edited version or something, but I'm anxious to show it to them.
Okay. So then when did you get into piercing then? Was that...
Well, Chris and I had spent most of our career up until Big Brain had opened, and for 5 years into the opening of Big Brain is a team. Like if you hired one of us, you had to hire both of us. So it was important at the time to be versatile, and I would make myself more useful by being able to wear more than one hat, and Pearson was included in that. So he would get hired on as a tattooer, and if they didn't have a tattooing position open, I would take the job as the piercer. And when Big Brain opened, I thought that I would be tattooing a lot more permanently, and we might hire a piercer. But from the day we opened the door, we were busy. And I eventually left tattooing to pierce because I had more free time. I could stop, take meetings, I could help set appointments for Chris, who didn't prefer, I mean, he was more talented than me too. I like to leave that part out usually, but to be honest, Chris was a better tattooer than me. So it was just kind of the natural progression. He took on the tattooing, which was more time consuming, and I took on the piercing and the management, which was less time consuming, and I was probably better adapted at it.
Okay.
Adapted for it.
And then, do I remember right, or didn't you have like a Guinness Book of World Records for most piercings in a day?
So we had been open for a year, and we were trying to get our name out, and we did a publicity stunt. I didn't break it. I had set it. Like there
Okay.
wasn't a record before, so I petitioned Guinness.
Okay.
And they said, yeah, we would consider putting it in the book. And I went through all the paperwork and I went through all the documentation, had it filmed, and there's like criteria you have to meet for it to be official. I did all that, and it stood, and they sent me my little letter, my little certificate saying that I had set the new world record. And probably 2 weeks later, somebody beat me by 1,000.
Oh.
So
How many piercings did you do?
I did 171 all in one setting, and I'd put the jewelry in. The guy who beat me did, I think, 1,200, and he just left the needle in. So
Somebody came behind.
It's
Yeah.
like extreme
Yeah.
acupuncture on his part.
But I've always taken a lot of pride in leading and setting and
Yeah.
being the pioneer. So I still am proud of that endeavor. I look back and see the pictures, and I
Yeah.
look like a child, and the shop looks like it had a bomb go off, and it was just a mess. And my client was just a kid too. And,
Yeah.
but I still like thinking about that because that's when we set the tone. It started off a publicity stunt to get us some recognition, and it ended up being kind of the mantra for the shop. I mean, to always be the first, and we're still trying to do that with this thing that we talked about earlier about the blockchain for the piercing supplies and the tattoo equipment and stuff like that. So I take a lot of pride in that.
Well, and that's one of the things I was going to mention, because that world record was the first time I'd ever heard of Big Brain. But then I saw you on the news a little bit later. If I remember right, it was talking about not having underage kids in the shop and not wanting to tattoo underage kids. So you've always kind of been involved in not just the business and the tattooing side, but kind of like the regulatory, the government side.
Right. Try to be a responsible part of the industry. And I saw us going through our growing pains and, the industry changing faster than the government could keep up. And I thought it would be empowering and invaluable to be part of that process. So I worked with the state, and I worked with some other people within the industry from Omaha to help spearhead the legislation that eventually ended up passing. We did not get the exact verbiage that we wanted for the age limits, but we did put a lot of good stuff in there, and it's up again for review. So I was in Lincoln within the month, maybe a little bit over a month now, but beginning of December, talking about these regulations again. It looks like we've got some more changes in the pipeline, so I'm trying to get ahead of that right now. But it's a major endeavor. The government likes to create bureaucracy, and there's a segment of the population that likes to enable them to. And I'm trying to be the responsible, again, part of the industry that kind of makes them both happy. So we'll see how it plays out. It's a challenge sometimes.
So speaking of being an innovator, Josh and I, we've pretty much had all of our tattoos done by you guys, but your shop is not your average looking tattoo parlor.
No, it's
by
not
a long shot. It looks like a design studio or like an architect's office.
Well, I take that as a compliment because
Yeah.
that's what we were going for.
Okay, so where did all that come from? I know like you've tried to break the mold with the image of a tattoo artist and all of that stuff, but like you've taken it all the way to even when you walk into the door of your shop, you're like, holy shit, there's like iPads everywhere. You're not flipping through all these old ratty old books and
that that's also something I'm very proud of. We are much different than any other tattoo shop. It kind of feels like the Apple store when you go in there.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that same feel where it's got a lot of natural wood. It's got the iPads everywhere, like you said. It's got a big architectural piece of wood that kind of looks like a wave. Our buddies at a place called Workshop Unknown did that. A buddy of mine named Shelby and his
Shelby the Butts.
Shelby DeButts, yeah, he trained at the gym for a while. I forgot that you guys knew each other. Shelby and Joel, really talented design and craftsmen, came in and built that place for us, and it is for the sole purpose of being unique. I find that to be valuable in every aspect of life. I always try to look at things differently and try to take what people are used to and shake it up a little bit. And the shop's a good example of how it pays off. People do remember it. The facility makes a great impression on people. I think when you walk into a tattoo shop, first of all, they all kind of look the same. They all kind of smell the same. And since they're so similar in so many ways, people will lump them together quite a bit. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And I wanted to break that thought process of having people think of us like they think of other people. When you're trying to sell something that you say is better than what other people are selling, you have to show them in more than one way. You can't just show them with the work because they think it's a trick, or they think that you're photoshopping it, or they think, you just have to show from the business card we put in people's hand. We put an embossed foiled business card. It's not some cheap business card. And the facility is another example. It just takes one more worry out of their head. It's not dirty, it's clean, it's well lit, everything's white and bright. They're not hiding old ink or worse, even blood somewhere. You can look and see with your own eyes in 10 different ways, the facility being one of them, that we're different. And I'm proud of that. Those guys did a good job, and they built it to last because we put a lot of people through the door there.
Yeah.
So it looks fancy, but it's also durable. I'm very thankful that we have a facility that can hold up to the volume that we do.
So I may be biased, but I truly feel like the artists at your shop are some of the best in the world. And for being Omaha, Nebraska, like people think Omaha, Omaha's actually a pretty decent city, but if you're thinking Nebraska and some of the best artists in the world, how did you come about finding your guys, or did they find you?
Well, I think that the Omaha Phenomenon is what makes it easy to do what not easy, but what makes it possible to do what we've done. When you work in a city like Orlando, where I worked, it didn't matter how good or bad you were. It mattered what your phone book ad looked like. It mattered about how your front person made the sale, those kind of things. And you could blend in a town like that. Well, you don't have that advantage in Omaha. If you suck, it's going to be obvious that you suck. And those people get weeded out quickly in a small town like this. But it also spirals the other way, too. If you're good, that word will spread and people will want to be part of it. And I'm really proud to say that one of the reasons we have such good artists is because we've got 10 dudes that have been there 10 years. It's not only about being good artists, it's about being good friends. That's what keeps people. That's what keeps good artists. That's what makes other artists want to be part of our team, is because we're good friends as well.
Is that unusual for your industry to keep employees that long?
I think you heard me explain earlier. I came from a shop where we'd kick each other's ass at the end of the night because we just couldn't stand each other anymore.
Right.
And here it's not like that. Here we go home and help the other person move, or take them out for a drink if they've had a hard day. Or here it's family, and it's not just lip service. It's family. There's 10 dudes that have been there 10 years. That is something that I could never buy. There's no, you can't do that unless you're a good friend. You can't have good employees unless you're a good boss. You can't be a good boss unless you have a good friendship with these people, I feel. And I think that's what's made it, is just being good friends to each other.
But you kind of broke the mold too, as far as how you treat your employees, right? Don't you have some differences as far as like?
We do, and I love this industry to death, but the bar's set pretty low when it comes to treating an employee well. A lot of our industry still functions in the shadows, where guys will get paid cash at the end of the day, or they're treated as subcontractors, where they've got to take care of all their own taxes and all their own supplies and all their own health insurance, and don't have any of the luxuries that you would if you had a minimum wage job at a bank. The people at a bank get treated like professionals, even though it's a pretty, it doesn't take a huge amount of talent or intelligence to work don't want to insult anybody either, but the entry-level position at a bank gets a lot more respect, and they get treated as a better professional than the highest level of artist in my industry. So we do things different than most of our industry, but I'm not some superhero. I've given my guys, last year we had to take away health insurance because it got too expensive. So, but they have now a health savings account that the company funds, so they don't have to pay their own deductible. At least they can't pay their premiums from it because that's a law, but they can pay their own deductibles that the company contributes 100% of their deductible to. They've got paid vacation. They've got 401ks that the company matches 8% of their salary on. They get regular old paychecks, so they go buy nice homes. Lenny, our mutual friend, I think he's tattooed both of you guys. He closes on a beautiful home, like a 4,000 square foot home on the side of a bluff on Thursday, off of what he makes. And there's guys that make tons of money in our industry. They can't do that because they're living on the run, running from the tax man, running from child support, running from whatever the heck they could be running from. And my guys, half the reason they've been there 10 years is because they have stability. So I haven't done that much for them. Like, I appreciate you saying that, and I like being recognized for doing the bare minimum. But really, it is the bare minimum. These guys I wish I could give them so much more. It's the least I could do to treat them as a professional. I wish everybody in the industry did, and they don't. So that's why I have great guys in these other places have high turnover. So
I mean, it needs talking about because it's not the norm in the industry.
It should be.
Even though these guys are artists and they devote a lot of time to their craft.
Yeah, they're passionate about it. The guy working at the counter at the bank he's not passionate about his job or her job. These guys pour their life into it. They work 12 hours at the shop, then they go home and draw their stuff for the next day because they love their clients. They don't want to disappoint anybody. They've taken on this pressure to give something that's permanent to people. I know both you guys play guitar. I play a little bit as well. But if you botch a song, you got another one coming right up, and most people won't even. Well, this thing, you don't concentrate for even a second in this industry, and it could go bad quickly, and it's embarrassing,
Well, I think too, just like you said about music, is that people just see the finished product on a tattoo. It's like a performance. And unfortunately, we're only paid for the finished product or the performance, but they don't see the hours going into honing your craft and practicing and drawing up drawings and experimenting with drawings and all that stuff. So,
yeah, I was talking to Dominic just the other day about that. Because I was talking about being on stage. He's like, "Man, I'm so afraid of talking on stage, and I just couldn't do it. Like, what if you mess up and everybody's gonna notice?" I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you're one-on-one with someone. You're drawing ink on them that literally is permanent. They're going to have that. And if you mess up, like, that would terrify me. So I don't know. I mean, it's cool to have a mutual respect between the two. But, yeah, it's man, I can't even imagine the pressure of trying to put something on someone permanently.
Well, I would have to agree with Dominic, too. I could have played for a long time, and I've never been on stage to do it. I get embarrassed even jamming with my friends sometimes. Like, Smitty.
I think practice terrifies me more.
Yeah. So, tattooing 20 years ago, you said the shop's 20 years old. Like, tattooing back then was kind of a fringe artwork. Like, you had to be really extreme to have tattoos, or if you saw someone with tattoos walking down the street, they were either in the military or they were a drug dealer or something like that. It's completely changed. How have you kind of seen that affect your business? Has it affected it? Or, I mean, it's just a completely different story nowadays than it was back when you started.
Absolutely it is. But it's kind of like the fight game, too. I feel like I was in at a very transitional time for the tattoo industry. Like we talked about those fights at Bourbon Street, and that being a transitional time. A big part of my life's just been good timing, Josh, trust me. And the tattoo industry is probably the best example of that. When I started, it was turning from kind of that fringe element that it still had a big biker vibe, which is almost entirely gone at this point in the industry. There's a very small percentage of our industry that is still that biker kind of oriented stuff, like the wizards and the
Screaming Eagles.
That's a very small part of the industry now. But that's the people that I learned from. So they were in it more for the social aspects. They were doing it to be outcast. And there's a few motivators that make people get tattoos. There's a very small percentage of people who collect tattoos for the art. A lot of people will collect to make a social statement, or will collect to be part of a group, like the guys from the gym. They all get one, the fraternal aspects, and then there's that social aspect. That's kind of why I collected. I kind of wanted to separate myself. I grew up in Orlando, and there's a big military town, and you'd see these people from all walks of life in the military collecting these tattoos from who even knew where, and I always tried to get close to them at the fast food restaurant, and that social part of it is what really drew me to the industry. Well, it being a transitional time was when that started to be less of a motivator and the art started to be more of a motivator. So my generation was kind of that flag bearer for the transformation. We were the ones that kind of bridged the gap between the bikers and the people who are coming up in the industry now, who are just artsy fartsy design dudes, people who grew up drawing. They have mastery of every medium, including the iPad, which my generation kind of struggles with. It's the most efficient tool you could use, but I feel like I'm just a leg down on these new guys, and I have to work twice as hard now to do what they can do on the iPad in half the time. So that was the best part of me being in the industry, and a big part of our success is that it was perfect timing. That transition, I think I was just perfectly suited for it. I had the social consciousness of what it meant to be tattooed, but I also had the appreciation for art. So that was kind of and that's not something that I had to fake, or that people in my generation had to fake. It was starting to come to the forefront of the industry, and we really were well suited, my generation, to take it to the next level. That's when all the tattoo magazines started coming out, and now it's even a new generation of TV tattooing, like my business partner Chris has been so successful on. But it was all that good timing from it transforming from being a social thing to socially acceptable, and us just being good stewards of the industry during that transition. So,
yeah, I got my first tattoo when I was 18, and maybe the last one, I got my knuckles done right after I got married when I was 25. But then I took like a 10-year break. Honestly, I couldn't afford it. And so when I started back at like 35 years old, my friends were like, why are you getting tattoos? Or you basically just do it because it's cool. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's cool, but it's an art form I appreciate. And I have access to some of the best artists in the world. So why wouldn't I mean, it seems like a waste to love this art form and then not actually go get tattooed if you've got access to them.
The problem, though, with having access to some of the best tattoo artists in the world is, at least I know, I'll admit it, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, I've become a tattoo snob. So especially like when my wife and I go on vacation and I'm wearing like tank tops and stuff, I get people all the time going, oh my God, like where did you get those tattoos? But then I'll see other people with tattoos going, peasant. You get to see like bad tattoos that you probably, unless we didn't have access to the people we do and watch the artwork and watch some of their other work on other people, you probably wouldn't know. But there is a difference, right?
I can see it from both sides, because I get to be a tattoo snob like that too. And then I look down at some of my own arms. I'm like, oh crap, some of the stuff really sucks. So you're not just born knowing about good tattoos. Like when I was coming into the industry, there was a lot of pressure just to get tattoos. And I wish I would have had the patience or the forethought to get good stuff. But when I meet people in my industry, like tattooers who, or tattoo snobs like that, I have to remind them, I said, listen, there's a time you didn't know too, because I can see about 4 cover-ups on your arm right now, and you didn't know either. So I always have to bring myself back down to earth, because I have the tendency to do that too. But it's just like anything in life. You eat good, and it sucks to eat tuna fish again. It's easy to get up there, and it's easy to appreciate it too. It's easy. Like, I don't want people not to be a tattoo snob. You know what I mean? I want them to appreciate good stuff, but it's hard for me to hold myself out there like I know any better, because I got some crap on me too. I'm like,
I've got cover-ups. I tried to draw my own. Actually, I did draw my own first tattoo, and
it's what you were saying about starting to collect them later. So I have about 80% of my body tattooed right now, but it's the second time I've had 80% of my body covered, So really, I tell people I got 160% of my body covered because I'm like on my second coat. And I'll tell you what, that first 80% was a shit ton easier than the second one, man. I'll tell you what, at 45, it does not go on as easy as it used to.
It hurts worse?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
So I just started my back.
Note to self.
Yeah,
I just started my back for the second time.
I love the finished product, but I'm such a pussy in the chair. Like I'm good for like about 45 minutes, and then usually the whole time I'm bitching at Dom or Lenny going, are you guys sure you're doing that right? Like, like I'm just...
It's terrible. I do the same thing. I do the same thing. What is that machine running on anyway? Is that thing running on diesel? It's like...
But I love when it's done.
I do too.
Well, I'm for the most part, like when they were working on my arms, I was good for about 3 hours, and then 3 hours I would just start to get grumpy. But thankfully, we were usually done within 2 or 3 hours. I tell you what, I had Dom working on the back of my leg, and the shins were fine. I was surprised. He went to the back of my calf and 15 minutes into the thing, I'm like, this is going to be a long night. I was, clenching my butt cheeks. I was sweating like crazy. I was having to flex the other leg. Just, I don't know what it was, but that was bad, back of the leg. And I've heard, like the neck and the elbow ditch and the chest are all places.
Where is the worst place to get tattooed? What's the most painful?
I got to think. Mine was the back of my knee. I thought that was
Knee
terrible.
ditch, yeah.
Dominic did the back of mine.
Really?
And I've never tapped out from getting a tattoo, but the time he did the back of my leg, I was like, I'm not tapping out, but you got to move. You cannot tattoo right there anymore. You got to go up or down by 2 inches. Because
what's the weirdest place that you've ever been asked to tattoo?
I've been asked to tattoo. I've done some pretty intimate spots. I hope my kids.
We have an
never hear
adult
this,
audience.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hope my kids never hear me say this. But in Orlando, at that shop that was so rough and tumble, had a stripper come in and get a flaming star around her wrinkly starfish back there.
Oh no!
Yeah.
X marks the spot.
Yeah, I've seen it all. I've seen the silly ones where guys get like Popeye tattooed on their stomach and stuff. So his shit looks like their shit, or their shit looks like his shit. And, weird
Crazy
stuff done with guys' nipples, like a big bowl where the dude's nipple is the bull's nose, and then it's pierced, so it looks like the bull has its nose pierced. I've seen some weird stuff, but you know what? Our store doesn't get a lot of stuff like that. Those are kind of that fringe that we were talking about a little bit earlier. We don't cater to the fringe too much. We're kind of a spot where it's clean and you feel safe, and we don't. People ask what the weirdest thing to ever come through Big Brain's door is, and it wouldn't shock you.
What about piercings?
Same. We've done some weird ones, and I always get a kick out of doing a third nipple. Somebody will come in and want a third nipple pierced. I'll do it for free every time.
Really?
Well, yeah.
They have a third nipple?
Yeah,
in?
you'd
Wow.
be surprised. You would be surprised. Yeah, so there's this Facebook page where people have third nipples can join this Facebook page, and we had a guy who was part of the page come in and get it done, posted it on there, and then we had like 50 people.
Oh, wow.
Within 1 week, all come to get their third nipple pierced. Men, women. Some of them have a nipple underneath their nipple on each side, like a puppy, where it's got like
So I won't say any names because when this guy revealed it to me, he told me not to tell. So no one will know who this is, but he doesn't have nipples except for one nipple kind of like on his rib cage. So no nipples on his chest, one single nipple on his rib cage. Weirdest thing.
Well, Lenny can tattoo one.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I met my fiance. She refers her breast cancer patients to Lenny. So
Lenny. Yeah, that's something to check out. If you're looking or interested, one of your tattoo artists, Lenny Rankin, who's done tattoos for both me and Mick. He does tattoos. He does nipple replacement tattoos.
yeah, real satisfying. He's very proud of that, and I'm very proud of him for doing that. It's a rare talent that he has, and he's using it in a good way, for sure. I love seeing that. I love hearing about it. He gets great press over it. He makes these women so happy to give them back a little bit of something that they lost. It is incredible what he does with that.
They've gone through breast cancer treatment. They've had double mastectomies, but when they cut out the cancers, they have to remove the nipple. So they can put a silicone insert in there, but there's no nipple. So what Lenny does is he tattoos a nipple on there so they look whole, and
It looks three-dimensional.
it's crazy.
It's photorealistic.
Yeah.
It is
crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
Talk
Those
about
like
those-
little bumps, like those Montgomery glands that are around a woman's breast, down to those highlights on it. It has a shadow from the nipple. You run your hand across and it's smooth, but it looks like there's a bump there.
Talk
It is
about how the
crazy.
tattoo
And
industry
he'll
has
actually
changed and become accepted.
blend scars too. So for like breast reductions or whatever, they have these scars, and he can blend, basically make it match their skin so that the scars are less noticeable. So just amazing things being done. And who'd have thought that would have come out of a biker art form?
Yeah, an industry that used to be so disrespected has now become essential in plastic surgery. Even people that have like burns or dog bites on their face, they can go back and match lip colors and all that stuff. So that's how you know it's hit the mainstream, is when people are considering it a real therapy for yeah. And all that stuff's done in a medical setting. He does that at a doctor's office.
So typically with entrepreneurial stories, there's major failures. There's it's an uphill climb. Like what was your journey like? Did you have any of those kind of major setbacks, or what did that look like for you coming up?
I am aware, and sometimes I don't like to tell this story because I have been very, very lucky. I haven't had any of those kind of problems. Big Brain is my first endeavor. It was successful from the day we opened the door. I've had very, very, very little struggle, and people always think that that's like some internal drive that a successful business owner has, and for a lot of people it probably is. But I think the unique person in my situation, because I have accomplished a little bit. I hate to sound braggadocious, but I feel like I've gone pretty far for somebody who's not uber competitive. I hang out with a lot of people who are really, really competitive, but I don't really have that. I kind of just want to be the best me, you know. I told you I play guitar a little bit too, and I never set out to be the best guitar player. I just tried to be the best version of me, and Mick knows that I've been to the gym a little bit, and I've never tried to be the best fighter, just tried to be the best fighter that I could be, or same with just lifting weights. You know, I've never tried to bench press a lot. I couldn't even tell you what I would max out at. It's never been my goal. I just want to be the best version of myself, and I think it comes more from a fear of failure than it does like an internal drive to be great. Like I don't really have that. I think I can even trace it all the way back to this conversation that my dad and I had in the garage. I was probably 10 or 12 years old, and we were cleaning out the garage. He was a salesman and had a bunch of samples and stuff in there, and I'm going to throw something away, and I knock over the garbage can, and I said, "Damn it." And he said, "What'd you say?" Well, I said, "Damn it." He goes, "You can't say that." I said, "No, I said damn it, not like damn." I thought it was like darn it. Like if you added the IT to the end, it changed the word. It wasn't a bad word anymore. He's like, no, you're wrong, and you should never be wrong. And that's when he told me about my white privilege, which sounds kind of bad at the surface. But what he told me that day when I knocked over the garbage can is he says, "You're white, born in America, you're a dude in a modern time." He says, "You don't have an excuse to fuck up." He said, "You have no reason to fail. You're not some guy who has to overcome all the odds and get here from India to be a doctor, even though you're super smart, super hard worker, or a woman who has the challenge of a glass ceiling or the challenge of being looked down upon or as a sex symbol." He says, "You have none of that. If you fuck up, it's because you fucked up. Just like you said that cuss word, you fucked up. Nobody made you fucked up. You had every opportunity not to say that, but you said it and you shot yourself in the foot." He says, you don't have to be great at anything. Like I was saying about guitar fight, all you have to do is not fuck it up. And so all my life, I've just been trying not to fuck it up. You know, that fear of failure, and it's gotten me somewhere, I guess. But really, that fear of failure is my major motivator. Like I just know that I'm luckier than most. I've always been lucky. And I try not to squander that opportunity. I feel like white privilege is kind of a bad word, but it's really a compliment to other people who've worked harder. Yeah. It's exactly what it is, Mick. And I would never be able to stand in the mirror and shave my own face if I didn't like the person I saw, or if I was squandering my existence, or if I was just not living up to my potential. I mean, like I said, just be the best version of myself. If I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't be content. And so I think that is a unique motivator. I don't think everybody really has that same fear of failure. I think that other people want to be the best at something, or that's why I do a lot of things and none of them overly well. You know, I just try, and thank God people don't pick their friends. Like you don't hang out with the best guitar players because they're the best guitar players. You don't hang out, otherwise you wouldn't have any friends. I wouldn't be either of your friends if you had to be a good guitar player or a good fighter to do it. And I feel like that, just trying not to fail and trying not to embarrass you or the people around you or your family is a sincere way to go about your life. I mean, you don't have to be great. You just have to try. And you just have to not squander your opportunities. If you've got some luck, use it. I don't think there's anything bad about that. Be thankful for it. Be grateful for it. The best way you can be grateful is to show appreciation to it and use it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I guess what does the future look like for you? What do you want to accomplish with the business, or outside of the business? What does that look like?
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of waiting for another opportunity, I guess. I've never had to look too long or too hard, but I feel like the shop is doing well without me. I've got great management in place. Some of the other endeavors I've taken on in the last 10 years have done well, and we've split those up equitably among some of the owners, and we've each done our separate things with them. And I feel like I'm like in another transitional period. I'm hoping that it's good timing once again for maybe an endeavor with my future wife. I feel like there might be something with fashion. I have some ideas for some books. You remember when we were kids, we used to get those pick your own adventure books, where you'd read a little bit and then it'd give you a choice, and then it'd say, if you choose this, skip to page 68. If you choose that, skip to page 90. I've got some ideas for that are kind of contemporary subjects, like people making good decisions, kids making, I would cater the books to, like that 12 to 16-year-old.
Josh, that's your world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Josh has written some kids' books.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
I was unaware of that.
About to finish my first grown-up book here hopefully this month. So.
Well, I'll keep my ideas to myself, so I don't.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I would love to pick your brain about it because I have little experience with that.
Well, I've written books. I haven't sold a lot of books, so I know a little bit about the writing, not so much about the selling. So I'm hoping to figure that out.
Well, I'd be interested to hear more about that. But I think that's what's on my horizon. I don't have major plans for the shop. I feel like when you're running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, like the shops are doing, that the hardest part is just keeping them running that way. I don't feel like we need to get bigger or better. I feel like when you're going fast, you hit a bump, the wheels can come off. So the key is now to,
just keep momentum.
Yeah. And I've said that for a year or two now, and it's paid off. I don't feel like I need to change a whole lot, and I don't want to get stuck in my old ways. But we've hit sales goal after sales goal after sales goal. We've broke 4 records in the last 5 weeks. So I feel like that momentum is creating more momentum, and I'm not gonna tinker too much with the shops at the moment.
Sometimes you just got to get out of the way and let it happen.
Yeah, that's how I feel right now. Yeah. So.
Well, and you're a stylish dresser, so if you do come out with a clothing line, I'd be the first to sign up. I could use some help in that area too.
I appreciate
you still have your beaver coat.
I do still have that.
This
beaver
motherfucker
coat.
showed up one day with is it a 3/4 length or is it a full length beaver?
It's 3/4. Yeah, it's like a pullover, a blonde beaver coat. It's a little obnoxious.
I thought it was fucking cool when I saw it. So before Conor McGregor was wearing fur coats, this joker here. Yeah.
Pioneer, baby.
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if people want to check out the shop or some of the artists, where can they find you guys online? Or if they want to actually, you're a sponsor of the show. We run a commercial, so hopefully they've heard about you before. But if they are wanting to sit down and get an actual quality tattoo, how can they get an appointment?
Well, there's always the website, which is bigbrainomaha.com. But I think we've done better suggesting people hit the Facebook and the Instagram and stuff like that. It's a little bit more personal. You see better examples. You can kind of interact. You get a more feel for the artist. And since our industry is so personal, I definitely like referring you to a personal spot, like their personal pages. Mm-hmm. They're real people. They're approachable. You can ask them questions. A lot of times they'll redirect you back to the shop to make the actual appointment. But I think it's important that we keep it personal and the clients keep their expectation that it's personal. So I've been avoiding the website more lately and steering people towards the social media. And the best still is going down to the shop. You can take it all in. You can see the facility. You can meet the people face to face. You can see the clients that are there getting tattooed and how they interact. It's just a happy spot where people get along and there's a good vibe about it. It's an artistic vibe. It's a camaraderie vibe. It's a vibe that you won't get through Facebook or the website. So I encourage everybody to come down and just check it out. Be part of it.
Well, I know Dominic is he was on some list of the most followed people or most followed Nebraskans on Instagram. He's got one of the most popular Instagram accounts of all the people in Nebraska.
Absolutely, he is killing it on there.
I know several of those. I follow several of them, so I'm going to find as many as I can. I'll post them in the show notes for this, so people can find the individual Instagrams. I'll post the Big Brain website, but get on there, find the phone number, call to the shop, get an appointment. Anybody there is going to be great to work with, and you're going to get art that you can be proud of for many years. So,
well, I appreciate your advocacy. It's very nice to have people like you saying nice things about us. It's way different than any ad I could run you. Adding credibility, your name to it is very important to me. I hope you know how much I appreciate it, Josh.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Glad we could. Any other questions from you, Mick? Anything?
No, I'm just excited to see. It's funny because I always feel like, even though some of these guys are older than me and stuff like that, but I always feel like people who've been in and around the gym for years, I almost like, they're like my children, you know. And so it's always like refreshing to see them just blossom in whatever endeavors that they do, and you know, just like that brotherhood that kind of you have in the tattoo industry. I feel like we have that in the gym, where I could not see you for 3-4 years and our relationship just kicks right back up where it left off. And so I'm grateful for our friendship, and I wish you the best in everything that you do.
Thanks, Mick. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
thanks for coming on. Thank you for your time. And yeah, we'll look forward to more work down the road.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.